Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Bridgewater Conservation Commission meeting. The date is 10/24/24. We do have a quorum, so we'll open the meeting. It's now 5:30 p.m. And for the record, the members and staff present are Harry Bailey, Marilyn McDonald, Eileen Prisco, Mark Peterson, Caitlin Putt, the conservation agent, Bob Ruley, the director of community and economic development, and myself, Wendy Smith. I'll now read the governor's order for online meetings into the record. Pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, this meeting of the Conservation Commission for the town of Bridgewater will be hybrid and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. There will be no public attendance permitted. Citizens who wish to tune into the meeting may do so via Zoom. The link and phone number is always located on the bridgewaterma.org website. So we have on the agenda, we have call to order. Public hearings, old business, notice of intent, 0 Lakeshore Center, map 83, lot 85. There was an error, 0 Bedford Street, map 75, lot 57 will be continued until next meeting, 11/14. There is no new business. We have some Conservation Commission business, administrative items, Lakeshore cease and desist, minutes and adjournment. So with that, I want to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. We do have just 0 Lakeshore Center, so that is a good thing that it is the only thing on the agenda tonight. I just want to, I'm going to put out a few things because we're going to run just a little bit differently. So I'm just going to make a comment after I go through this list. I'll make a comment. The vice chair is going to make a comment. Then we're going to hear from LEC to share findings on the 3 areas of concern. We'll hear from Silva Engineering to share changes and responses to the plans. We'll have Concon comments, questions, and concerns, then public comment, questions, and concerns. Okay, so it's just I switched the LEC and Silva just for purposes of things, how it would make sense to actually hear it. So I just want to say, I want to thank everybody, the concerned people around Lake Nippenicket. I prefer the Nip because it's just easier. But just thanks for all of your information, your input. You know, there was a lot of time, a lot of energy put in. We want to be able to hear from people. You know, we have, you know, the wetlands are our main thing. So I just wanted to acknowledge, you know, the people that have sent in and to thank you for your shares. Tonight, when we do get to that, we are going to have a 3-minute share. Marilyn can talk a little bit more about that. And that's all. We have to do the 3-minute share because if we have a lot of people speaking, we can't have people going on and on. So maybe if you're going to share something and you have a concern or a question, you might want to jot it down so that you're specific when it comes to be your time so that you're not shut off. We'd like to be able to hear what you have to say and get an answer to a question if that's what is needed. So just try to be aware of that. Okay. Vice Chair.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Marilyn McDonald, Vice Chair of Bridgewater Conservation, so welcome. So I know there's probably a lot of people on tonight that might not have ever attended a Bridgewater Conservation meeting, and as the former chair, people would have to suffer through a little bit of my opening line so people are clear on exactly what Bridgewater Conservation does. So Bridgewater Conservation is governed by both state and local bylaws of rules and regulations along with performance standards to ensure that a project meets these requirements and has minimal impact of any surrounding wetlands. This is the only way we judge our decisions. It's strictly on wetlands, regulations, performance standards that have to be met. This is why I love conservation. There's no emotion. It's all rules and regulations. Bridgewater Conservation does have a 100-foot jurisdiction with any bordering vegetated and any 200 feet of a riverfront. So as Wendy mentioned, typically the applicant will go first. We're going to have our LEC peer review go first, so we get a good explanation of everything going on. We also have our town engineer, Greg Tansey, on so that he can do any input from our updated plans. And then we're going to open it to the board members and staff to ask any questions and applications on this presentation first. This is how we roll. Once we do that, and we've asked all our questions, we are going to open it to the public for public comment. And we're going to ask it similar if you've been to a town council meeting. That's 3 minutes. You'll hear a little boop. You got a minute. And we definitely want to thank you. We encourage town participation. We encourage abutters and anybody else to make comments. This is how we catch things sometimes during our filing. So we're going to encourage anybody to speak, but again, we need to keep it to wetlands issues only and keep 3 minutes. If somebody else brought something up, let's bring something else up that's important to you. And please direct all questions through Wendy. If Wendy doesn't answer them, she's going to direct them through a peer review or the applicant or somebody that can assist her to answer the questions. But all questions need to be directed to the chair. The board's going to do either two things at a hearing. We're going to either close the hearing or we're going to continue it. If we close it, the board has 21 days to render a decision of approval or denial on the application. Once we close a public hearing, no new information is allowed to be on that hearing filing. If the application is approved, once it's signed by the commission, there is a 10-day appeal period before any order of conditions become valid. And that has to be filed in writing to Mass DEP at that time. So those are important things that sometimes a lot of people don't know and understand. So I used to always do this as an opener, so I just felt it was important tonight. So Wendy, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Marilyn. So with that, I'd like to ask LEC to share your findings.
Thank you. Mark Manganello with LEC Environmental. We've been peer reviewing this project since May, and this is my first appearance in front of the commission. So I'm gonna kind of start from the beginning and run through our process, our findings along the way, summarize the information that's been submitted in response, and kind of bring everyone up to date to the review letter that we submitted just yesterday. So, like I said, we've been involved since May. We've submitted 3 reports dating back to the first report, which was submitted on June 21st. That was based on review of the notice of intent, the site plans, previous environmental reviews and permits, and site evaluations we performed on May 24th and June 11th. We reviewed wetland resource area boundaries, including the bordering vegetated wetland boundary, bank to the stream, and bordering land subject to flooding. Bordering land subject to flooding is present on the property and is associated with a FEMA floodplain, which extends to elevation 62.6, which has been determined through a letter of map amendment issued by FEMA and is depicted on the plans accurately. The BVW boundary was found to be accurate. We didn't see any questions or concerns about the location of those wetland flags. The perennial stream, or the presence of a perennial stream and riverfront area, was identified early on as a key issue for the commission. So we focused our analysis on that primarily after we confirmed the other resource area boundaries. This site's not mapped as rare species habitat by any NHESP. There are no certified vernal pools, no potential vernal pools mapped on the property according to NHESP. The entire site is mapped within the Hockomock Swamp area of critical environmental concern. The permitting history of Lakeshore Center, the Lakeshore Center development, is relevant to this review and was summarized in our initial report. The overall project has been in various stages of permitting and development since an ENF was filed with MEPA for review of the industrial subdivision build out back in 1983. Since then, multiple notices of project change have been submitted to MEPA for different iterations of development on the property, most of which have never been constructed. The industrial subdivision currently includes a hotel and office buildings located west of Lakeshore Center Drive near Route 104, and a more recently constructed apartment complex located at the terminus of Lakeshore Center Drive, which was extended to facilitate access to the apartment complex. 3 remaining lots, including Lot 7, which is the subject of this notice of intent, are undeveloped. Development of Lot 7 has been included in multiple NPCs, notice of project changes, filed with MIPA over the years, but no construction has occurred, obviously. In 2023, the applicant submitted a supplemental draft environmental impact report to MIPA, which included development of Lot 7 as proposed in the current NOI. In November of 2023, MIPA issued an SDEIR certificate, which provides a detailed scope of issues to be addressed in a final environmental impact report to ensure the project, including Lot 7, avoids, minimizes, and mitigates damage to the environment to the maximum extent practical. To date, the final environmental impact report has not been submitted to MIPA. Some of the items in the FEIR scope under wetlands and stormwater are relevant to the Commission's review of this NOI application, including the stream determination, low impact development stormwater strategies, and water quality monitoring to ensure protection of Lake Nippenicket. These 3 items, the stream determination, stormwater management, and water quality monitoring, were also the primary issues identified in our review of the NOI, and each is addressed in our reports. The stream determination is very important to the project, since a perennial determination would result in riverfront area extending onto the property and the project footprint, whereas an intermittent determination would result in no riverfront area and only buffer zone extending from the stream bank. It's important to note that a portion of the stream on and adjacent to the site is depicted as perennial, and a portion of the stream located further upstream is not depicted at all on the USGS map. And can I share my screen and pull these maps up so we can have a quick look?
Share your screen.
Thank you. Can we all see the USGS map?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the most recent USGS map. The USGS map is updated on occasion. I've reviewed them. There's a 2024 map, which is this one. I've reviewed them going back several years. And this stream is consistently shown as depicted here. Everyone here, I think, is familiar with this site and the general location. This is the MassDOT parking area, and this is 104, and the property is here. So it's important as part of this discussion of the stream for everyone to understand that the only portion of the stream on site that's depicted as perennial is this little bit here, right? So this extends beyond the MassDOT parking area onto the property for a distance that, I don't know, maybe it's 10 or 20 feet. To put that in the context of site plan, here's the MassDOT parking area. Here's the stream, comes under 104 in a culvert, daylights briefly here, goes under the parking area, Old Pleasant Street, and then it's in an open channel here. The portion of this that is actually depicted on perennial on the USGS map, we don't know exactly. I'm guessing it's, you know, somewhere around here. It's a very short portion. This plan shows more stream, which is present in the field. It continues upstream in this area. This segment of the stream is not depicted with a solid blue line on the USGS map. Under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the portion depicted as perennial with a solid blue line is considered perennial unless it's observed to be dry for 4 days in a non-drought period. The portion not depicted, so that's the portion that was delineated on the plans but is not depicted on the USGS map as perennial, which extends in here, is considered intermittent unless it's found to have a watershed area of 1.0 square miles, or if the stream has a watershed area of at least a half square mile and a predicted flow rate greater than or equal to 0.01 cubic feet per second at the 99% flow duration using the USGS stream stats method. We ran the USGS stream stats, and the watershed area for this stream is 0.17 square miles. It's well below the 0.5 threshold. So we have two segments of stream that are subject to two different sort of regulatory criteria. The perennial bit closest to the culvert here, which can only be determined to be intermittent if it's observed to be dry for 4 days in a non-drought period. And then we have the intermittent segment, which is presumed to be intermittent unless it has a watershed area of 0.5 square miles or more, which it does not. So it's clear to me as the reviewer that the portion that's not shown is intermittent. During the NOI process from the get-go, essentially, the applicant has asserted that this stream should be classified as intermittent in both locations, where it is shown as perennial and where it's not shown at all. This is based on documentation, or their position is based on documentation of the stream dry in 2007, which was accepted at that time by the Conservation Commission through an order of resource area delineation issued in November of 2007. That ORAD was appealed to Mass DEP, and Mass DEP issued a superseding order, but did not provide a clear decision on the status of the stream. They instead noted that the project is grandfathered from riverfront area performance standards because it was shown on an environmental impact report through the MEPA process, which was submitted prior to November 1, 1996, which is when the Rivers Protection Act was enacted. So DEP essentially said, yeah, we're not going to make a decision on the status of the stream. It doesn't matter because the project's basically exempt from riverfront area performance standards. We'll come back to this issue in a second. While the commission agreed to the findings in 2007 and DEP did not render a decision, we were not comfortable, LEC was not comfortable relying on that 2007 data because it was 17 years old. And we felt that there are regional climatic changes that have occurred since then, as well as surrounding land use changes, which could affect hydrology in the stream and sort of render those older observations as no longer relevant. There's nothing in the regulations that says old observations expire at a certain point. So, you know, there's essentially the regs say, okay, we're silent on this point. 2007, 2001, whatever year, they don't really say there's a sunset on validity of these observations. So we were at that point with our review moving through the summer, or actually this was in June. And our initial report concluded with some recommendations and options for the commission to consider, which included determining that the work was exempt from the riverfront area performance standards, as DEP said. We suggested that you could simply accept the 2007 data and determine the stream to be intermittent. Or we could require the applicant to provide more data on the stream from the summer of 2024. Take a look at it, you know, this year and see if there's some more data that would help inform the commission's decision on the important issue of the stream status. The applicant responded and they clarified that they were seeking application of the grandfathering provision suggested by DEP. And we issued an addendum to our initial report in July, noting this clarification by the applicant and requesting supporting information from the applicant regarding the MEPA process over the many years that had passed to ensure that the grandfathering provision was being reasonably applied, and requesting that the riverfront area be added to the plan with a note saying that the project was exempt from the performance standards. In early September, the applicant responded with information supporting the grandfathering provision. but objected to showing the riverfront area on the plans because they again were asserting that the no-flow stream data from 2007 should be accepted and the stream should be determined to be intermittent. We were sort of at an impasse at that point, but soon after, the applicant collected no-flow data in the stream between September 10 and September 13 during a non-drought period and submitted it to the commission along with revised plans. Our LEC's most recent report was submitted yesterday and details our findings and recommendations based on review of the supplemental information and revised plans that were submitted by the applicant on October 11th and 16th. And this included the no-flow observations in the stream. As a sort of an aside on the no-flow observations, I just wanted to read to you all the language that governs observations of streams. It says the issuing authority shall find that any stream is intermittent based upon a documented field observation that the stream is not flowing. A documented field observation shall be made by a competent source and shall be based upon an observation made at least once per day over 4 days in any consecutive 12-month period during a non-drought period on a stream not significantly affected by drawdown from withdrawals of water supply wells, direct withdrawals, impoundments, or other man-made flow reductions or diversions. The non-drought period language is important here. As most of us will recall, there was an extended period of little or no precipitation in southeastern Massachusetts in August and September of this year. Massachusetts has a drought task force which monitors precipitation. They have stream gauges where they monitor flow in streams and they monitor groundwater levels and combine these and other factors to determine if an official drought is occurring or has occurred. The applicant submitted a drought status map as of September 17th, 2024, which I have here. Can you all see that? So you can see southeastern Mass is not in a drought as of September 17th, 2024. They determined that about 10% of Massachusetts was abnormally dry, but no areas were under drought conditions. This map was updated again more recently on October 11th. And here you can see some portions of the state were declared to be in a mild drought, but southeastern Massachusetts was declared to be normal by the drought task force. So based on that, these observations from September 10th to September 13th were in fact collected during a non-drought period. Based on the observations of the stream dry in September 2024 and the fact that the observations occurred in a non-drought period, the data is sufficient for the commission to determine the stream intermittent and that there's no riverfront area on the property. I personally stopped into the site on September 19th after the observations were made and observed the stream dry at the point where it flows into the culvert. The other issues, aside from the stream determination that remained unresolved prior to our most recent report, included the stormwater management system and water quality monitoring in the stream. Regarding stormwater management, the applicant has revised the plans to include low-impact development features to address the comment made during the MEPA process. Technical review of the stormwater management system is not our expertise, not LEC's expertise. We understand that the town engineer will be reviewing the revisions and can perhaps comment on compliance with DEP's stormwater management standards. The water quality monitoring was suggested during the MEPA process to ensure that there's a mechanism for tracking potential changes to water quality in the stream and Lake Nipponicket post-construction. The applicant has not offered any water quality monitoring plans to date, but we suggest that if the commission moves toward issuing an order of conditions for the project, a special condition could be included requiring submittal of a water quality sampling plan to be implemented by a third party by the applicant before construction can begin. So that's an overview of where we're at in my mind. I'm sure you all will have some questions, but I think at this point, it's appropriate to allow the applicant to present the revised plans and any commentary they may have in response to my presentation.
Right, thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate your work.
You're welcome.
So next up, we have somebody from Silva. I don't have all the people on, so I can't see who's here.
Becca is here,
Rebecca,
Madam Chair.
thank you.
Is here, Mr. Brennan is here, Mr. Lovett is here, there's a few others that might, may or may not be here. So I will start by saying thank you to Mark for his well-presented documentation on everything that just went on. Holy moly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed. Okay, and then if you don't mind, I will share my screen successfully. Oh, okay. And run quickly through some of the, what I feel ended up being minor once I actually implemented some of the lid techniques. So at the request of MIPA, mostly MIPA and everyone in the neighborhood, and this lid, low impact development, I was able to implement tree box filters along the edge of the parking area in 3 locations. And I was also able to implement some bioretention on one of the drainage basins to the plan right, as you see right here. These are on top of what was already designed. So our TSS amounts are removing, I didn't remove any of the other water quality. So we still have the catch basin sumps, we still have the proprietary filters. So our TSS removal is way more than 80% required. We're probably closer to 90. I didn't calculate it. I could. The tree box filters, again, implemented over here against the tomb site side of the basin. It'll be a box structure where you have a sump on one side, it overflows into the biomedia that's going to filter out all the inorganics that need to be filtered out, and then it'll flow back into the existing trunk line of drainage, and then still go through the sediment forebay that was there. So this is on top of what was already presented. So I didn't remove any other elements. So we've just added on to what we're already taking care of. Those all fit within the elements that I had already. So I didn't push any grading further. I didn't have to change any of the layout to accommodate these low impact developments. I know, no, I don't know. I don't know if there's any other questions about they were kind of tiny on my side. I revised the drainage. I did have to change some pipe lengths. I did give that to the town as part of my review, a whole new, all that hydrology stuff, put you to sleep while you're reviewing it. So that's it for the plan changes in the scheme of things. If there was questions.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. We
I
are gonna ask about holding off on any questions until we speak or public speaks. So I
Just
just,
to announce that I did say that Mr. Brennan was in the audience and Mr. Lovett too, if you have any questions particular to them.
okay, thank you. Okay, so Conservation Commission members.
You want to let Greg speak on any stormwater with the recent plan
Oh.
before we weigh in?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Mr. Tanzi, would you like to speak on the stormwater?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This afternoon, I did review this plan that's submitted here before us, and I compared it to plans that I reviewed for the planning board. And the last time I reviewed this project for stormwater was about a year ago, October of 2023. And I compared the drainage basins to what was proposed, and the elevations and the size of the basins did not appear to change. They did do some various enhancements to these basins. Some enhancements were remove and replace of materials and adding sand to it, which promotes infiltration, also filtration, and the other enhancements that Rebecca had talked about. So nothing material really changed. There were some tweaks, there were some improvements. The last time that I reviewed this plan, there was it had 22 extra parking spaces. Those parking spaces have been removed, which decreased the amount of impervious area, which would actually improve the efficiency of the drainage system and the BMPs that are employed here on site. So I didn't have any issues with the drainage from what I could tell. I never had an issue with the intermittent stream. I always thought it was intermittent and not perennial. That's a moot issue right now. It's been proven not to be perennial. And so I don't have any issues with the drainage. I didn't see any issues with the drainage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tanzi.
Thank you.
So at this point, we'll have comments, questions, or concerns from the commission members.
I have a question.
Okay, I was gonna go ahead,
I was
Mark.
gonna see if Bob had anything to add first before you
Oh.
open to us.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea because, yeah. So hold on to that, Mark. Mr. Rulli, do you have any comments or anything that you'd like to share?
I'm good at the moment, but I reserve the right to comment later.
Okay, thank you. All right, now to commission members.
Sure.
So, Mark?
If you would mind, can I ask a question through you to Mark Manganello?
Yes,
Mark. Hi, I'm Mark Peterson, Conservation Commission. So the watershed associated with the stream is 0.17 square miles. Is that correct?
According to USGS, yes.
And that 0.17 miles is more than just the project site, right? For the hotel, that encompasses mostly the whole
The
triangle.
wetland system, yeah.
The whole wetland system.
Yeah.
So that's 108 acres is 0.17 miles. So that's a pretty big part of the whole area. So that encompasses a lot of the work that they've already done down there. My question is this: for the whole entire site there, considering the 0.17 square miles encompasses the whole thing, do you know how much total gallons per day of water is being withdrawn through irrigation wells? Was that part of the scope of work that you started off with? I looked through some of the list of. You don't know?
No, I was not aware that there was any irrigation withdrawing water from the watershed.
Yeah, I think there's 37,600, and that was in the SDEIR of 2013, September 13th of that date. It's suggested there was 37,600 gallons per day, and since 2013, there has been a lot of work. I believe this part. There was some more lawn added to the whole project, and the gallons per day might be a lot more than 37,600. So I'm just wondering if that would have changed some of the determinations of the stream itself, because one of the requirements is that the stream not be significantly affected by drawdown from withdrawals of water supply wells, direct withdrawals, impoundments, or other human-made flow reductions or diversions. And I think, well, I'm not nearly an expert. I'm just a layman who reads a lot. So I'm just wondering if that might have an impact on that determination.
It's possible. It's difficult in my experience to quantify the impact of irrigation wells and how that affects the hydrology of a large watershed area. It depends on underlying geology, frequency of withdrawals and that sort of thing. So it could affect it, is the answer to your question.
So should we let the science decide? And what would that science be? Have we done that yet?
I did not look into that personally. If that's a question the commission has, then I think that's the applicant's responsibility to provide that information. I think they need to demonstrate that there's no impact from water withdrawals.
Sure. So I just want to make sure the people who watch this video on YouTube after it's recorded have enough information to know that this is the applicant's position.
Is there a graphic that you're aware of or something that shows where the irrigation wells are located?
We haven't been provided, I don't think we've been provided that information. In fact, it's been, some people have asked for that information to be put on the environmental impact reports to show the whole impact of the project since 1999. And that,
Mhm.
I don't know that that's been added. I believe it hasn't. If you didn't know about the irrigation, because if you go down there, if you drive down there, maybe even today, you'll see the water flowing. You'll see rust colored water.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
we're going outside the lines here.
okay. I mean, I
Sure.
understand what you're talking about, Mark. I think we're gonna have to, I don't know, table that for right now and just speak to
Sure.
whatever.
Just a final word on that, I guess I would say, we now have observations from 2007. Were those irrigation conditions in place in 2007 as well?
Yeah, and that I don't know.
This is on YouTube.
Okay, yep, thank you. Harry? Do you have any comments or questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Eileen?
Same here, not yet.
Okay. Marilyn?
Yeah, I got several. So, Mark, nice presentation. Thank you very much. Very thorough. And that's an interesting point brought up by a commission member, Mark. So thank you. So yeah, I mean, we all know that this is an ACEC area, Mark. Which typically, it does have to be held to higher standards. So I've looked around. I don't see any rules and regs that there's a different, set of higher standards in like your 100-foot BVW, things like that. I mean, to your knowledge, is there anything that an ACEC area answers to more than a filing within the 100-foot also?
No, there's nothing related to activities in the buffer zone. If there were work in the BVW, if the project involved direct impacts to BVW, there is a higher standard, basically a restriction on that, unless it's a limited project situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And then, my main concern with this, so right now, to me, this line is not a valid line. There was an order of conditions 2007. It was renewed in 2013. It was looked like there was nothing that we have on record after 2013 being renewed. So given that, I know you said you've been out there and we've all been out there, you've looked at the line. So this notice of intent now would be determining the line. And you're saying you're comfortable with the line that you saw out there, or do we need to take a relook, or you think the line flag is accurate? Because this is defining the line now on this notice of intent.
The BVW boundary specifically?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, it's accurate in my opinion.
Okay, all right. And just a few more questions for you, and then, I'll leave some for later. So I found it on the USGS map, because we've got some history with this site back when they've checked it before, 2007. I'm just curious, because it does keep showing up as perennial stream on there. Like, how does that USGS map, the recent one that comes out, gets determined? And how do we, how does that, I just don't know. So I'm kind of inquisitive on that.
Yeah, so I asked around internally at LEC, see if anyone had any experience with that. They do have a method to their madness, I guess, and it's very scientific and very detailed. It involves literally field checking all of the streams in Massachusetts, during the drier parts of the year and just essentially collecting data. And from there, it gets complicated. They call it a, let's see, a logistic regression equation, an automated procedure for determining the mapping. I don't know exactly what that means, but I know that they do have a very detailed, robust process for making these maps the way they do.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to understand that. So then somebody would have had to been out there from USGS Maps checking that at that time and ruling it as perennial. So that I was kind of very, very curious about that. And then just a few more questions, basically things that I really don't know that, because, you know, we don't have a lot of filings, Mark, with MEPA on it and stuff. So the final environmental impact report that has not been filed with MEPA yet, is that something that holds the commission, or do we have to wait for that? Like, is that something that has to go hand in hand with the commission? Do we need that filed, in other words, to make any type of determination?
You don't by regulation. You don't
Okay.
need to wait for that process to be complete for you to complete your process.
Okay, all right. Thank you again. Didn't know that reg on that. And then I noticed in your report, and this will be my last question, I'll pass off to the commission. I did notice the monitoring plan for, for the, stream. So my question, I guess, would be more maybe to the applicant. To me, it always seems good to get a baseline report before you do any type of thing. Like, I would like to see that in this notice of intent, because I think if, that's actually benefits, because if something is down the line that's showing up as a hit or an element, you have a baseline report before anything happens. So that's my take. That would be a good thing to have and I'll kind of leave it at that at the moment. Those were my kind of highlighted questions. Again, thank you for your thorough presentation. Back to you, Wendy.
Okay, thank you. I had actually that was going to be my question, was before closing or prior to anything, questioning about the soil testing, because there is no water coming from the stream. So maybe having soil tested by the intermittent stream in that area just to see ahead of time, so that, like Marilyn said, there was a baseline. So that might be something for the applicant, I think, to think about. So that if
Yeah,
something
and
does
if I could
come
just-
out later, that they're not going to be blamed for it if there's already some kind of something that's in the soil.
Yeah, that comment by me about the water quality plan, that would stipulate a plan be submitted before construction by the applicant to be approved by the commission, and that plan would have to include baseline data as well as during construction and after construction, and it should be collected by a third party. And there would be some type of a contingency in there if something was observed that could be tracked back to the site.
Right. Okay. Would that be part of a special condition? I mean, I know that you have that in there. I have it highlighted, but
That was my suggestion, yes.
yeah. Okay.
Wendy, if you don't mind, can I just follow up one more with that question that you just asked?
Sure.
Mark, on the water testing, does that also include like any baseline soil testing on the banks of the stream there?
I don't know.
Is that part of a water quality test?
It wouldn't seem like it, but it may be. I don't have a high level of experience with water quality testing, so I think, the applicants, it would be on them to come up with a plan, but DEP should probably be consulted on that. DEP has a good level of expertise, or someone who's a hydrologist or has a higher level of experience. It's not the first time this has been done, so there must be a protocol out there.
Okay.
It's been
That's
established.
been, we can sometimes have elements and hits out there. Okay, awesome. Thank you for your answers. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So did I get everybody? Eileen, do you have any thoughts?
You already asked, yes.
No, I know, but I didn't know if anything.
No, not
Or
at
Harry, what about you? Do you have any other questions or thoughts at this point?
No, nothing right now.
Okay.
Madam Chair, on behalf of the applicant, may I make one comment?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to.
You are,
point
can you
out that
just
I'm sorry, this is Attorney Ed Brennan, 174 Dean Street, Taunton, representing the applicant.
Thank you.
I just wanted to point out on the monitoring issue, that was raised back in February. And we did submit a response to many concerns that were raised by the neighbors. And at that point in time, you'll find from the record that we did agree that we would work with DEP and Taunton Watershed Alliance to come up with a monitoring plan. So we recognize that issue, and back in February, we did agree that we would work with them to address and come up with a monitoring plan.
Okay, I'm just making a note.
That's in correspondence from myself to the commission on February 16th.
Okay,
And the other comment I wanted to make, as far as the irrigation wells go, I'd point out that one of the field reports that was submitted goes back to 1999, and they had by Dr. Carr, and there were 4 days of no flow at that time, and there was only one building on the site then, and that was One Lakeshore Center.
okay. All right, thank you. All right. So next up, we will have, we're gonna open to the public questions, concerns, comments. When you raise your hand, if you would, when you're called on, can you just state your name and address for the record? Ask the question to me as chair, please, and I will figure out who to ask in return, should I need to get it.
Madam Chair, I'll help you with this. So
Okay,
I would just suggest that if people have comments, they use the raise your hand feature, or if you're on screen, wave at me. We have one hand raised already. Melissa's hand is raised. So we will start with her, Madam Chair.
okay, and can I just give a reminder that there's a 3-minute thing, so that after 2 minutes, you will be given a 1-minute warning. Just that the time will be up in a minute, okay?
You'll either see me raise my hand like 1 if I'm visible, otherwise I'll say 1 minute. Okay, guys? Thanks.
All right, thanks, Marilyn. Melissa?
Hi, good evening. Melissa Raymondetta, 317 Lakeside Drive in Bridgewater. I would like to request from the commission that you do extend the public hearing on this project as new information has just been submitted. As a resident, I would appreciate the opportunity to review this information. I would also like to note that within the last several months, work has been done in that area by the DOT. I had sent a letter to the commission with regard to this work, and it included debris being thrown in and around the area of the stream, and soil being turned over on the other side of the park and ride, between the park and ride and 104. Another issue I'd like to mention is that the Concom was never brought to see the perennial stream during the site walk visit. And I would hope that the Concom would take the time to review the perennial stream for themselves, in addition to reviewing the data. Would also like to mention that with regard to the wetland bylaw of the town of Bridgewater, that failure to avoid or prevent unacceptable significant of cumulative effects upon the wetland values protected by this bylaw. There has been no cumulative study of any kind that reviews the overall impact of Lakeshore Center. This is clearly noted in the letter from the Open Space Committee on June 26, 2024, and the TRWA's letter to MIPA. Lakeshore Center has been built piecemeal with no attention given to the cumulative impacts. The Concom has an opportunity here to demand that the cumulative impacts of Lakeshore Center be reviewed carefully. As you know, it's an ACEC and higher standards need to be applied. Stream water needs testing, lake water needs testing. What are the impacts of the projected 57,000 gallon per day drawdown of the aquifer by Claremont's numerous irrigation wells on the streams? Where are the irrigation wells? Have they been tested? How much time?
1, I think.
Where is the tree cutting plan? Where is the alternatives analysis? This is a 19.9 acre parcel with 11 acres of upland. As we all know, Claremont can move this project out of the buffers and riverfront area, but has not done so. Instead, they are proposing the removal of 8 acres of trees. Why? Have the MEPA recommendations as noted in the certificate dated November 13th been reviewed and incorporated into the presentation or review of this project? The MEPA process is still ongoing. As noted in the Open Spaces Committee letter of June 25th, Claremont's responses to concerns raised have for the most part been subjective, unsubstantiated assertions that there will be no harm, impacts will be minimal and avoided to the greatest extent possible. It has done all that is feasible to minimize impacts and meet standards, and doing anything more is not financially feasible. Please deny this project. Thank you.
Thank you, and you got it right in. Perfect timing.
All right.
Thanks, Melissa, and some awesome comments there. Thank you.
Janet has her hand raised.
Okay, Janet?
Hi, Janet Hanson, Pleasant Street. Bridgewater.
Janet, could you give your exact address on Pleasant Street, please?
Oh, I never have on anything.
I know that. That's we should have corrected you on that.
Council doesn't correct me. Anyways, I hope that's not against my 3-minute here. I agree with Melissa. I support everything she just said. I do want to mention in 2007, that was a drought year. So I don't know how that can be part of all this, but Mr. Tansey said that it was proven not to be perennial, and I must have missed it tonight. I didn't hear that Mark said that it was totally not perennial, so I would like clarification of that. I also, unless the plans, couldn't tell by the plans tonight, if when you face the building on the right side, that was a corner of that was in the 100-foot buffer. Is that still in the 100-foot buffer? And if so, why? And I don't think in an AC, area of critical concern that should be allowed. And I too agree that this should not be closed because no one got to see any of the new information that was presented tonight. And I forget Mark's last name for the LLC, but he said that he presented a letter yesterday, and I would think the public should be able to see that. And I just also mention of a final report doesn't necessarily have to be in place before COMCOM makes a decision. But it doesn't mean you can't wait for it. And I think it would be beneficial to wait for a final report, because I would hate to have any decisions made and then you see something on a final report and you would have said, whoops, maybe we shouldn't have approved if that's the case. If you're going to deny, great. But I just think that, there's a lot to this that needs to be considered. And I questioned the 100-foot buffer area and also the perennial stream. It's always been labeled at that. So where was it said that it's not? And 2007 wasn't a good year to be, that'd be like perking to see if you can build something. Oh yeah, you can perk it. Well, there's no water anywhere. So
1 minute, Janet.
okay, thank you. So I just asked that this not be closed. Final report should be available before you make any decision. And if they could answer the question of, did I mishear whether or not that this is definitely not a perennial stream or not? And just keep it open for the public at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Janet.
Wendy,
Mark-
Madam Chair, do you want her questions answered at this time?
I was just going to ask Mark if he wanted to speak briefly to that. Can you just give a synopsis, Mr. Manganello, about why it's not a perennial stream and now it is intermittent?
Yes, so what I said earlier is that the observations obtained by the applicant in the beginning of September 2024 meet the criteria in the regs for being sufficient to determine that the stream's intermittent. They observed it dry over 4 consecutive days in a non-drought period. And that's what the regs say. It does speak about water withdrawals and drawdowns. I don't have any information to suggest that that's a significant factor at this point, so I believe the observations are sufficient.
Okay, thank you. And also that it wasn't a drought
Yes.
time. Okay,
Jean
Thank you.
has her raised hand, Madam Chair.
okay, thank you. Jean?
Hello, this is Jean DiBattista, 260 Lakeside Drive, Bridgewater, Mass. And the first thing I want to say is, we've all been waiting for 6 months for something to happen and have attended these meetings with no new information. There's been quite a bit of information presented tonight, and I do think the public needs time to be able to absorb that information and review it, and that it needs to be made accessible to us to do so in a way that we can easily access it. So I'm asking, can the commission please do that? And can we keep the public hearing open until such time as we have that opportunity to review it? Secondly, I also agree that it would be not a good idea to complete this review without the final FEAR report from MIPA. I am curious as to why that hasn't been filed yet, as that the SDIR was submitted quite some time ago. So I'm not sure why that final support wouldn't have been submitted by now. But the fact that it hasn't been tells me that there's information that we all need to hear and know about that will probably be included in that report. Third, I do agree there's still, even though I did really appreciate and felt Mark gave a very clear presentation on his view of the stream. I think he did a great job. But there is a discrepancy here between what is being found on these maps and what is being found and what we're deciding, or what we think we're deciding here. And there is something, as a person who lives right on the lake, that I've observed, and the lake is at one of the lowest points right now of water that I have ever seen. Last winter, we had floods.
One
Now,
minute, Jean.
yeah, now we have pretty much quite a bit of drawdown of the lake. It's huge. And, you know, basically, I would, you know, even if there wasn't a formal drought declared, I'm curious as to what the impact of the lack of rain and the extreme, much higher heat that we've had lately how it has impacted the stream. And then finally, I do think there's other issues. And now that we've resumed this discussion after 6 months of not talking about those issues, I think the public needs some time to be able to look at the issues that were previously submitted, some of which Melissa brought up about trees and about the buffer zones, in order to represent our concerns to the commission. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Perfect. You had a couple of seconds left.
Joe Callahan has his hand raised.
Okay, Joe?
Hi, thank you. I don't live in Bridgewater. I live in Berkeley, but I am president of the Taunton River Watershed Alliance, who's a lot of their members live in Bridgewater.
Okay, thank you.
Just, Madam Chair, is it appropriate for me to speak?
Yes, I believe
Okay.
so. I mean, yes, it's all the Taunton River water, you know, it's all part of it. So I guess, you know, if you have a concern
This
or
is
want to
different
share.
than a town council meeting where it doesn't have to be a resident that speaks.
Okay. So you're all set, Joe.
Okay. TWA has been opposed to this expansion of the development for some time. And the reasons are we're concerned about the water quality and the stream flow. I do agree with, I think Mr. Manganiello mentioned in his presentation, and your commission member, Mark, mentioned about, you know, possible land use changes that may have affected hydrology and stream flow. I do agree that that has occurred. I don't think, but I don't know this for a fact, that USGS has the manpower to go out and check every stream for whether it's perennial or intermittent. I know they're starting to use drone technology now, but even drone technology obviously is limited to something like that. But with that said, I do want to mention too that we're doubly concerned about the effects to Lake Nip. We've made large efforts to remove the High Street Dam recently to increase the flow, the natural historical flow of herring into the Lake Nippenicket from the town river. And, you know, we have some concerns related to that. And with that, I'd like to see, and I'd like to suggest that the meeting be extended, the public hearing be extended so that we can see a water quality monitoring plan that Mr. Brennan had mentioned.
1 minute, Joe.
Okay, I think I'm done. I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for sharing.
If anyone else would like to speak, Bernice Morrissey has her hand raised.
Thank you.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Bernice Morrissey, 150 Lakeside Drive, Bridgewater. I want to echo the comments of all the previous people who have spoken publicly, and I appreciate the presentation tonight. What I want to speak to are 3 issues, one of them being the intermittent versus perennial. I find, especially what Melissa commented about the disruption in that area in September, which of trees being tossed around and the infrastructure in there being messed with. I went over and I took pictures, and it looked like a crane had gone in there and just knocked trees over, and obviously that would affect the flow from the stream. And I understand it's in between the park and ride and the NIP, not particularly the stream. So this, pardon me? Oh, so that's a big deal. But the whole thing of it being determined intermittent versus perennial, the speaker has said himself, it's a very complicated process. So tell me, why is the berm on that stream 12 feet on one side and 12 feet in the other? That was done in 1969. Why is it marked in every map that I could find dating back to Massachusetts commissioned one for the Department of Health back in 1800s? And it's marked, there are 3 streams marked. The way I see it is those three streams are crucial to the welfare of the lake. But my thoughts aside, the infrastructure has not been maintained. Those culverts are collapsing. Even like the woods itself on the back side of the stream, those stream beds or walls need to be maintained, and they have not. It's been wild. That leads me to my second question, which is natural heritage and endangered species. So the speaker mentioned that there were no vernal pool markers or any markings of any sort. And this is what happens when you have phased or piecemeal development. There is one vernal pool marker right near the stream that I have noted, and there were others. So I don't know what happened. But okay, the other point important, but that's an important thing. Was Natural Heritage ever out there to mark them, or has that not been done yet? So that's my question. The other one is about the Loma, the FEMA Loma. I know that an application was submitted in 2012 to FEMA for a Loma exclusion application. There's a lot of water on that land, and I know it's the elevation. But they were granted that because Silver Engineering submitted a Loma application in 2012. Well, now it's 12 years later, 12 years later, and the flood maps will be drawn again. So we need to keep mindful of that. And the final thing is, what is the final thing? Oh, I do ask respectfully that you extend the hearing. There's a lot to take in here. So thank you. That's all I want to say.
Awesome job.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Denise.
Right under-
Is there anyone else that would like to?
Let me just go through the list. Either use the raise your hand feature, or if you have your camera on, make some kind of hand signal that's appropriate. Not seeing any, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So coming back to the Conservation Commission, I'm just trying to think if I had a question or a thought for somebody. Yeah, I'm not sure. Mark, can you just speak to, did you say that there were no vernal pools?
I said that according to Natural Heritage's database, there are no mapped potential or certified vernal pools.
No mapped or certified.
And along the wetland boundary, I did not see any vernal pools during the review of that.
Okay. Thank you. I would like to make one comment from earlier on. I believe, Melissa, several of us have been out and seen the intermittent stream where it is. So I just wanted you to know that, we have taken a look at it. With regards to the DOT area, you know, that's a separate issue, but, maybe we can look into that. And as far as where we are now, you know, it does seem like a lot of people would like to be able to read and have access to maybe the LEC, to the new stuff that we as commission members have been able to see before the meeting tonight. So, you know, I don't know, Marilyn, at this point, like what we do, like I
So,
would.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Good, but so I definitely agree that, you know, with all the new information, and this has been continued for a while, that, you know, it's an ACEC area. We need to, you know, let the residents have a chance to review it. So I don't see any issues with continuing it till they have that time. I also, you know, there was some good things brought up, and I don't know, Mark, if you have the answer to this, but I also was driving by the NIP and saw it kind of at a lower volume and mentioned it to my husband. And I think I don't know if dam work does have any interplay in that, but that was a good question raised. If people are working on dams, like Joe from the water said, does that stop the flow going into the NIP a little bit more? Because, you know, I did notice it a little bit lower.
Are you speaking or referring to dam work elsewhere around like?
Yeah, like any type of dam work, does it like affect something down the line? Like, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, I suppose it possibly could, but I think it's unlikely that water level in the NIP is drawing down the water level in the stream itself. I think the stream's watershed is somewhat separate from the NIP, and I recognize that the lake's water levels have lowered, and I've noticed that within a lot of lakes and ponds around Massachusetts during that dry spell that we all experienced. And, you know, it's one of those things where the regs are the regs on this. The state determines if there's a drought or not. You and I might look at certain water bodies and think there's a drought happening. And I looked at my garden at one point this year and felt like there was a drought. But it's up to the drought task force to make the determination for the region. They're the experts, and we're, you know, that's what we have to rely on.
Yep. Nope. We are, as I mentioned, governed by rules and regulations. I was just curious on that because I did notice that. And you know, there's a lot of things that people have noticed with other communities too, with ponds a little bit lower, things like that. So I think you're spot on like that. But what I would recommend, what I would like to do, you know, given the community time to look at this material, is we have a new agent, Caitlin. Are you there?
She's here, and just so everyone knows, all the new information that has been provided has been put into the shared drive. As we get it, it's available to the public.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Bob.
Madam Chair, may I make one comment on behalf of the applicant, please?
Sure.
Thank you. I just would like to point out, again, that filing that I made with the commission on February 16th has attached to it a copy of a letter from the United States Department of the Interior, in which it responded to Dr. Carr's inquiry at that time as to what is the significance of the designation of a stream as intermittent or perennial on the USGS maps. And the department at that point said that we recommend against the use of the stream classification on USGS topographic maps in a legal context, either by local governments or private developers. They're valuable tools that can be used in combination with other sources of information, such as photographs and field observations. They refer to them as just general information, and a designation on the map should not be relied upon for legal purposes. And they actually recommended photographs and field observations, which I would add have been done 3 different times by Dr. Carr, by Mr. Thompson, and by Silver Engineering over a span of time.
Correct.
Thank you. And that's exhibit.
No, that
6 to
that was good that you brought that up. I don't have that one in this folder. It must be in the other folder.
When I
But
filed
it makes it clearer. And someone else had made comment to the fact that, you know, there's not enough people to go around and look at all the streams that there are to actually do the 4 days in a row testing in, you know, a 12-month period. So, you know, it's good that they say that it's not legally bound, but the thing is that we do have to watch if it was perennial, because, you know,
Well,
then it changes.
Once you see it blue on the map, then you obviously have to cause someone to
attention.
investigate. Absolutely.
Yep.
And it's been done,
And
and
everybody's done their
different
due diligence.
occasions, the results have been consistent. So I think
Correct.
it's very instructive, if you can find that, February 16th filing, exhibit number 6. The letter is very helpful, and it will answer a lot of questions for the commissioners as well as the public, because the public raised that question as well.
Okay, so February 16th, exhibit number 6.
Wendy, may I ask Mr. Brennan one question?
Sure.
I mean, we definitely know that, you know, the rules and regulations on doing that. They did the right thing when it comes to going out and doing the field observations. But I'm just curious, Mr. Bennett, will you be filing the environmental impact report shortly on this? Because you know, it would be a good thing to see and have.
You know, I'm working at the local level. I'm not working on the MIPA, so I'm not in a position to answer that question. I honestly don't know.
All right, no, all right, thank you.
But Mr.
Madam-
Lovett's here.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Sure, can you
The,
just state your name?
Bill Lovett with the Claremont Companies, 2 Lakeshore Drive.
Okay, thanks.
So with the, we understand our position relative to the intermittent stream, and we appreciate the work that everyone's done in regard to that. The responses that are now due to MIPA are largely contingent upon this determination. So with that said, we've put the MIPA process for the time being on hold until we had this completely resolved. So once and as soon as this resolution is made, then we will be finalizing our responses to MIPA. But when plans could have changed, responses could have changed, there would just have been a lot of work that would have need to be done twice. And so just from an efficiency standpoint, as efficient as this can be, you know, we decided that we would hold off on filing and finishing the responses until we had affirmed the intermittent stream. Similarly with the water testing, as Ed mentioned, or Mr. Brennan mentioned, we're happy to monitor the well, or not the wells, I'm sorry, monitor the water quality. And that's also something that will be included in the MIPA final plan. So
Oh,
I hope that helps clarify.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
Thank you.
it does, yeah.
Yep, and that's why I asked Mark. I wasn't sure on how those regulations were.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I ask, may I request that we get some information about the irrigation wells, like their location and maybe how much gallons per day went through this past summer, or maybe the summer before, or the summer before that, for the totality of the site, because maybe that affects determination of the stream, but also maybe affects flood control and other aspects of the hydrology that maybe were missed during the peer review. I think it would greatly benefit us if you had all the information. I hope that people agree. He should have all the information, I believe. So I did notice that list. It didn't have, it was, none of those files or documents actually listed what was currently being pulled out of the water for irrigation. And he didn't have that. So and also even our town engineer should probably have that information too, as he's making determinations about what we should do with it.
Okay, Mark.
Do-
I don't know how to comment on that.
You don't need to.
Okay. I am a little bit confused about the final impact report being filed after we render a decision. Because what if the final impact report has something negative that we would have wanted to speak to or address before closing and issuing anything? Like, I'm just not sure how that works.
I agree, Wendy.
If I may, I believe the state is looking for you as a local body, as a local entity close to the project to render your decision before they continue with the broader scope of whatever they're looking at. They're counting on us to resolve this on a local level so that they can understand the particulars from a local level so that they can move forward. So they're going to take whatever conditions you apply and they're going to look at that as you're protecting everything. So they're going to look closely at how we condition this to make their determinations and to add to whatever they're going to do. They're just going to build on whatever you come up with.
Oh, okay.
That's correct.
So okay.
And the
all right.
ruling of the stream must be playing a part in that too, I would assume, Rebecca?
Yes, yes. And if I may, I do know a little bit of the history of some of this as doing the hydrology of the whole area. Why there's streams on those maps from so long ago, they disappeared when the highways came in. The highways bisected those streams, no, those watersheds. So not as much go to those streams anymore. And every time a highway came in and you're surrounded by them, the watershed got truncated every time. So what was once a stream back in the 40s, I looked at those maps and even older, as the highways came in and everything got rerouted, they don't have as much watershed contribution anymore. Contribution, oh my gosh.
Did you say contribution?
Yeah, contribution. The watershed contribution is
Put it in the line.
way smaller than it used to be because of the highways. You got 495, you got too many highways.
Yeah, it's all right there.
It
Yeah.
truncated all of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for that little bit. So I have to mute because the train is going by.
So Wendy, I can talk while you're muted if you want to hear me. Okay, great. So I would like to hear from the other commissioners what their thoughts are. I mean, it sounds like we have enough information on the conservations, but I see what the residents are saying. So I'd like to hear from the other commissioners what their thoughts are on that. And then we can make a determination on how to go forward.
Yeah, I think that there's quite a bit of information that we all need to have a little time to read over. And obviously the residents need time to read it, review it, and if they have anything, they haven't, was there an engineer here for them tonight? For the residents? Did somebody say there was somebody representing the residents, or maybe it was just the attorney?
I think it was
Johnny.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, I agree. I think we need to probably have at least skip one meeting and maybe continue to the second one. I don't know how anybody else feels. But
I think our next meeting is November 14th, right?
Yes, we only have one meeting in November and one meeting in December.
Okay. So, I mean,
I
I'm
think to the next
comfortable
meeting.
going to November 14th. Can we hear from Harry what his thoughts are? Harry. We might have lost him on Wi-Fi again.
He's here. He's just muted.
Oh, all right.
There we go.
There we go.
November 14th, I got a Taunton River Stewardship Council meeting,
Oh,
so
no.
I won't be here. And I just received a hard copy of all this afternoon because of my computer. So I would like to have it continued. And that's my personal,
Okay, thank
because
you.
if I have to, I will go on down in Dayton if I have to.
If we continued it to the 14th,
Yep,
okay,
I'll go on down in Dayton, and we got an office down there, so I'll go in there.
okay.
Madam Chair, the applicant would really like to have the 14th if that's doable.
Okay. I would like the 14th too. I mean, I feel like we've got all this information. I think a lot of things were really clarified for me in LEC's report. I feel like we're, finally coming to the end. So I would kind of like to figure out what's happening, and, I would like to see that happen myself, so.
So with the applicant, my understanding is agreeing to a continuance, then would chair entertain a motion for a continue hearing on notice of intent, 0 Lakeshore map 83 lot 85?
Yes. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Roll call vote.
could you just be specific as to the date of the continuance?
Oh, the continuance is for November 14th,
Thank you.
2024 at 5:30. You're welcome. Roll call vote. Marilyn,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
can Mark vote on a continuance?
No.
All right, and myself, Wendy, aye. So that's it.
Okay,
So
thank you
we are-
very much.
All right, so we'll see you on the 14th.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm like spaced out because like, I don't know where my paper is. What's
Yeah.
next on the agenda?
But
We
we
have
don't
no.
want the Claremont people to leave yet because we have this cease and desist.
Oh, okay. So we have no new business. Conservation Commission business is administrative items. It's Lake Shore cease and desist. So it had the violation, it has to do with the Vista area to the lake. And things that were not followed through on. So Marilyn, do you want to take it?
Hey
Thanks.
guys, I'll start on the cease and desist of Lake Shore. So I mean, clearly, let's just get to the root, like, you know, there's no order conditions that we currently know of, even with the order conditions on October 16th. It's a no-brainer. They were not followed, nor was the vegetative management plan. So I want to handle this violation civilly. You know, I want to handle it at the local level versus getting, you know, Mass DEP involved and getting, you know, Army Corps of Engineers to do topos. I mean, it's right here in black and white. There was no licensed site professionals on site. There was no following the order of conditions. I'd just like to go out there, you know, get some pictures of what it was before the disturbance, go out with a botanist. And my feeling is just get some of these mature trees back up, and moving forward, this VMP vegetation management plan has to be followed to the T with a licensed professional site on there. We did these order of conditions. We worked so hard to make sure, you know, I stand by the ruling on the vote that day, but the order of conditions, they have to be followed. And we even had a beautiful vegetation management plan, and none of this went through. So my recommendations is let's handle this civilly on a local level. Let's move to, you know, correct this. And, you know, if it changed hands or something, then it's on the responsibility of the owner to make sure that they have the proper information of this. So that's my take is like, let's move forward, get this corrected, and, you know, keep this vegetative management plan and do the right thing moving forward, please. Anybody else?
I got something about it seems like, could that vegetative management plan be updated a little bit? Because it seems like some of the things that we asked them to do, or they asked themselves to do, might be impossible. Like some of the, like identifying certain invasive species or species in April might be difficult because the plants haven't leafed out yet. They're not allowed to do any work after they've leafed out. So I'm just wondering if there was like a weird paradox of they can't identify the plants that they have to remove. And that makes things difficult. So that's one thing I noticed. And yeah, all the invasives that were listed on that vegetative management plan, they're still there. I don't know if it's the same exact plant, but the stands.
Yeah, and Mark, I think that would be what's important with getting like an arborist out there, looking at what was there before, things like that, and getting the arborists out there, and every plan gets updated as it goes. So, you know, I guess my thing too would be, you know, more for Bob or Caitlin, you know, with no valid order conditions, what's their next move on that? How do we correct this? But really moving forward to correct it and going from there on the local level.
Is it something that we can, like they have this order of conditions or special order of conditions, can we like clarify for the Vista area, especially like what they should be doing, like just to streamline it? Because it looks like there's some stuff in here too that is not for the Vista, it's for across the street. So just to keep it like real clear that this is what we expect and this is what we need from them.
So the only confusion I'm having, Wendy, is that there's no valid order of conditions. So kind of puts the COMCOM in a little position. What do we do now moving forward with this? You know, they definitely need to do the vegetative management plan, move forward. So it's kind of more out of my purview to answer what we do now with no
I think they might have to do a new filing in order to reestablish a new order of conditions. We can't
That's-
put an order of conditions on life support and resurrect it if it's expired. So
So can that be a part of the cease and desist that they,
I would suggest is, you already had a site visit out there with an arborist. I would suggest that, you revisit that, look at what the initial requirements were, what's relevant now, what's not, and come up with what is an acceptable plan moving forward
Mhm.
for both current conditions and maintenance going forward, and ask the applicant to just update maybe an NOI to do this, and then we're good going forward.
Mr. Rulli, might it be addressed if, and I'm just thinking out loud here, if a request for a certificate of compliance under the old order of conditions was requested, then
It's
maybe
expired.
well, the old order, but maybe, I think we could still file a request for a certificate of.
Not once it's filed, not once it expired. You have every 3 years to extend it. So
Yeah.
2016, when it was issued, it was never extended after that. So we can't give a certificate of compliance on something that you didn't. To my knowledge, I mean, that's to my knowledge. I've never seen that done on an
But
unvalid.
Mr. Brennan, I think we're going in the same direction.
Yes, well, we can come up with a plan.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
this.
we all want to get to a point that we have an agreement that everyone can live with
Right.
and it's memorialized.
Okay,
I mean,
and then
I'm
it
with
comes
you,
off
Lena.
the agenda.
What's that?
And then it comes off the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, it would move forward similar to what Mr. Brennan was saying if we were to issue a certificate of compliance, but as Mrs. McDonald has said, that expired, so let's just do a new NOI and present that with the plan, and then we can just be done with it.
I think I was confronted with something similar once, and you couldn't issue two SE numbers at the same time, so one has to be closed, and maybe that's the mechanism to get this done.
We can do that.
You can't have two outstanding numbers on the same site, so. In an effort to close the old number, we might be.
We
able
could
to-
say that the certificate of compliance is not going to be issued or was not met. We can work through those mechanics.
Okay,
Thank you. And we want to, we appreciate your work. We want to make sure that area is protected. And we had a real great conditions and VMP that, should have been followed. So thank you for working with us.
The good news is nothing's growing for the next 5 months.
Right. Right. Okay, so are we good with that for now?
Yeah,
So
so
next-
I would just, you don't have to even continue it. It's an administrative matter.
Okay. So next steps will be handled by,
And Caitlin and I will reach out to the Claremont companies to figure out how we go forward with this, as well as Mr. Brennan.
okay. That sounds good. I lost my paper.
Okay, thank you. And I stayed calm.
Assuming
Yep, good
Caitlin
job.
still works for us.
Good job, Marilyn. So next up, we have minutes, but we don't have any, but next meeting we will. So, all commission members should be on the lookout for minutes that come through. Read through them, see if there's anything that's awry that needs fixing, and reach back out to Caitlin so she can fix them, and then we can vote on those minutes, in the next meeting. We'll have a few of them. Okay,
It's like a plan.
all right, and last up, we have, last but not least,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, everybody, thanks so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Greg, for coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thank
good
you.
night, everyone.
Yes, thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.